Would you like to come out today? Oh, yes, please, said Edward. So they lit his fire, made lots of steam, and Edward puffed away.
Hello everybody! You've probably seen some of the new Thomas merch that Mattel has been putting out for the 80th anniversary. I've certainly seen a lot of discussion about it in the fandom, and the reviews seem to be pretty mixed. Some people think it's awesome, some people think it needs some work. So, now that the merch has been out for a while, I thought I'd see what all the fuss was about. So today, we'll be unboxing and reviewing the Thomas & Friends Engine Celebration Pack. Yeah, I bought the new merch from Amazon because it's not in stock in the stores where I live, and I don't go outside. Now, if the Amazon listing is correct, there should be a mix of both of the new styles of merch in here. Now, my guess is that they've just chucked the engines in here, and it's just like bubble wrap and stuff, but we'll see. I was very wrong. Oh my god. Well, this is quite the surprise. Yeah, so it's like this is cool. So like, got the 5 engines included in the pack, the 80th anniversary logo, and Nat First Station gold, probably because, you know, special occasion. And you have this like picture of Thomas, which is like an interesting mix between the On the Go style and like the CGI sort of promo art. That's cool. There's also a stray bit of Sharpie for some reason. At least I hope that's Sharpie. I like these like Sodor 1945 logos on it. That's kind of cool. That's nice. Now let's see like let's see the actual products I paid for. This is a nice touch though. This is cool. So yeah, we have Henry, Push Along Henry, the new Thomas, James, Percy, Gordon, What the hell? I was gonna say, I feel kind of bad that Edward wasn't, like, really included, you know, in this. It's just, because, you know, it just goes 1 to 5, skipping 2, but, I guess I was wrong? What the... Let's get them out of there. Yeah, that's fine. Well, this is weird. It's almost like staring in a mirror, you know? I'll just put him over here for now. Yeah, that was not in the listing. I got this new. I wonder have other people, like, had a 1999 Edward? Huh. Well, that's strange. Comment below if you've had that happen to you. Anyway, let's get back to the review. So yeah, they've actually put quite a lot of effort into the presentation here, of the packaging. I guess we'll just take these guys out one by one. No, dang, he's really in there. So here is Gordon, the new Gordon, and dang, he is a big guy. That is like one chunky boiler there. Not to call him fat, but he is kind of fat. I like the big boiler, but it looks wrong on such a tiny chassis, you know? It looks unproportional. And I would complain about the cab and the firebox being so thin, but like, you know, on the Tommy Gordons, the classic Tommy Gordons, that was pretty thin anyway. I also don't really like how the footplate and the buffers aren't painted. I can't really say I was expecting them to be. I'm pretty sure the Thomas having the white running board was just a one-off thing. But it is still kind of disappointing when Playrail has been doing that for ages. Now this is sort of a pro and a con, but I don't really try to feel about the valve gear here. I like that they decided to include a representation of it. That's a nice touch. But I feel like the Japanese did it better. Playrail's representation of having it like on the physical side rod is cool and better. But this is still nice. Segueing into things I like about Gordon, I like the side rod and how like much more detailed it is compared to the old ones, and how it has that third hole, I guess, for the third wheel. That's a nice touch. It looks a lot more realistic, and that makes me happy. I also like the face they chose for him. It's not an expression you'd usually see on Gordon, but that's what I like about it. It shows a side to him we haven't seen in a while, I suppose. I also like how they tried to give him, like, a representation of his accurate wheel arrangement, how they gave him the trailing wheel and the one of the front wheels. Nice details, nice details. It's not perfect. They could have added the one from the cylinder, but I'll learn to live with it. Another thing I'll learn to live with is the coupling between the engine and the tender. I know they probably have to make this long so that way it can go around the sharper bends that they've been pushing out, but why are they so far away? The tender, however, I do like. The coal is actually removable, which is a feature we've not really seen on any sort of Tommy model. I guess you could say that the early Tommy Gordons, where the battery was in the tender, that was kind of removable. Like, I don't really think that was that intentional. I'm not the biggest fan of it, and I think the other ones in this range are definitely better, but it's not a horrible model. 6 out of 10. I suppose we'll do the motorized ones together. Let's do Percy next. So immediately, I like Percy a lot better than Gordon. This looks so good. They have finally given Percy a proper saddle tank that looks like the one from the show, instead of just this lump that could basically be the fattened boiler. The improvement between these two models is just incredible. This looks so much better than this one. Get this out of here. Garbage. I love the expression that they've given him. That is like such a Percy face. I love that like his cylinder is a different color than the buffer beam. I love like the details on his like what is that, toolbox, and just like the cab as well. And like, oh my god, this is so good. His whistle and dome are like actually separate from the body. That's so good. I will say though, I do kind of prefer the smoke box for this one, because Percy has an actual smoke box neck, but I suppose the thin one is, you know, show accurate. So, just whatever. In terms of proportions, I definitely like the proportions of Percy a lot more than Gordon over there. It just looks so, like, you know, Percy. I definitely feel like the height of these new Trackmaster models definitely lends itself better to making tank engines look good than tender engines. His cab's a little too tall for my liking. It's just ever so taller than the funnel. But apart from that, this model is very good in terms of proportions. In terms of the printing though, why are Percy's coal rails just molded in, while the ones on the sides aren't? This is very annoying. I feel like Mattel has really dropped the ball in terms of printing these last few years. I mean, if we look at All Engines Go James over here, see the lining on him is very poor too. Look at that line overlap there. You can also see it on Percy on his saddle tank, though I suppose it is less noticeable. Apart from that, I really only have one other small complaint, and that's just that the side rod really shouldn't have this hole in the middle. It makes him look like he's meant to be an 060, but that's probably easily fixable. I mean, I could probably do it right now. One moment. Oh yeah, that looks so much better. And as you just saw, he still works. I definitely recommend doing this to your Percys. It makes it look so much better in my opinion. But yeah, overall, this is a very solid model. I'll give it a 8 out of 10. Yeah, that seems right. One more motorized engine to go. Yeah, seriously, these things are really stuck in there. Okay, so like right off the bat, this model is just a great representation of Thomas. The proportions are on point. The lack of squash cab is definitely an improvement. It definitely feels like they used references from the actual render of Thomas and just turned it into a toy. I love how the space between the tanks and the splasher is actually 3D. This face is just a perfect representation of Thomas's CGI face. It just looks so accurate. And I also like how the funnel and the cab are actually the same height on this model. Like I said with Percy, the cab step is a very nice addition, as is this rear lamp, which is also on Percy. I just forgot to mention it. My only real criticism with this model is that, unlike Gordon, the splasher does in no way line up with the front wheel. It really irks me. I just wish they moved the chassis a bit further forward. It's just a tiny bit. Yeah. Apart from that, though, this is a very solid Thomas model. I just 8 out of 10. No, 8.5. Well, that's all the motorized engines. Time for the die-cat.
Not so fast, Edwardeth.
What?
Those models suck! The 3-pack engines are much better.
Oh, really, TAS155 on both Twitter and YouTube? Well, why don't you prove it?
Okay, relax, man. No need to get aggressive. Are you threatening me? Hello, everyone. This is TAS155 here in collaboration with EdwarddsDayOut to talk about the new motorized engines. Most specifically, the 3-pack versions of Thomas and Gordon and the 2-pack version of Percy. So, let's get into this. So starting off with classic 3-pack Thomas, I have to say, overall, I think he looked pretty good. He has his proportions are a lot better, and he ultimately just looks way better than the old TM2 version of him. There's a lot more details present, and overall, just a very good model. However, it's not without its gripes, and I have quite a few here. One, I'm going to talk about the running board. The running board on this particular one has a very noticeable sloppy overspray at the front, which does not look very good, as well as the missing details of his lamp irons not being painted, as well as his coupling. And another thing is that the white running board does not go all the way around the model. It goes up to the wheel arch, and then it cuts off. And that is kind of lazy. Another thing is that the whistles and the back lamp and back buffers are also left unpainted. It's not so much of a problem for the back lamp, it's more of a problem of the back buffer not being painted, as well as the whistles. I feel like they would add a lot of detail. We're not getting into that one. And another thing, this is just a personal gripe. Now I guess we're getting into the personal gripes now. His face. His face is always looking off to the side for some reason, even on the standard release. Which doesn't have another problem that I'm just going to bring up now, which is the paint splatter. Everybody has talked about this and how they don't like it. Personally, it's not a big deal for me, but it does look nicer to not have it on the standard release. However, the standard release is missing some details on the 3-pack version. And one more personal issue, I don't like the red that they chose. They chose for the running board. I don't like this shade of red, it doesn't look very good, and very much wish that they went with a darker red, like on my modified version. Now, in my modified version, I did repaint the face, and I think it would look a lot better if it was like this on the standard release. However, that is not to be, and if you want a face like this, you'll have to buy the one from the barrel loader set. Moving on to classic Gordon, the only noticeable difference from his 2-pack and 5-pack release is that he has a white running board. Now, on this version, or at least this one that I bought, his white is not very well done, and it's very pinkish at the front here. But I think that's more of just a problem with just this release than anything else. Overall, he's a lot better in person, but I still do wish that his front was extended, considering that Scotsman had a better front than Gordon, which is kind of weird that they didn't carry that over to Gordon, but yeah, not too many differences from his standard release from the 2-pack and the 5-pack. I do like this new piece that they put at the front here for his valve gear. It does look very nice, and is very nicely molded. There's not too much else to really talk about with Gordon, other than his back buffer beam not being painted and having a removable cold load. Overall, I think, yeah, he could be better, but he's not terrible. He's a lot better in person, when you think about it. Finally, we have Percy, and I think he's one of the better engines in the range, alongside Thomas and Duck. Overall, I think he looks pretty good. He has all his nice detailing. However, there is some things missing. Since this is not the 3-pack, although at the time of filming this, 3-packs have been found in America, they have not been found in my state, so I have not been able to find one. However, I did find this 2-pack at Kohl's, and I'm very happy to have found him. I do have some problems with it, because I think he has a tiny bit of scaling problem. I don't think he's a little too long and a little bit too wide. Either his cab isn't wide enough, or his boiler is too wide. But yeah, his face is really nice. It does look very nice. It looks very nice for a CGI Percy. And for the first time ever, he has a molded lamp on him. It is very nice. However, one thing that I don't like is the absence of black paint on the bunker. It is on the sides, but not on the back. They did this with previous TM2 releases, and I'm wondering why they didn't do it here. I know Mattel has always not really liked to put back detailing on engines, but for the bunker, which has been seen on previous models, I feel as if it should have been carried over here. But overall, I say that this Percy is pretty good. It's definitely one of the better Percy models, I think, to come out in recent years. Overall, I think the new motorized engines show a lot of promise. They're a lot more detailed than previous renditions, and is a much better step forward than the All Engines Go engines. That's not to say they don't have faults, and they definitely do, but this is a very promising first step for them going back to the classic look. I know these are not our classic look with the model series faces, but you can't deny that they do look like what we know, what we know and what we have seen before. So, yeah.
I see what you mean. I suppose the 3-pack engines are a bit better. Thanks for the info, Tass.
No problemo, friendo. Goodbye, Gordy.
I'm glad that even though he was written out of the show, they actually included Henry. Okay, so to point out the obvious, we got side rods. Rah! This is the first time since Ertl that we've had a die-cast range that has side rods. They don't work, of course, but it's still a very nice addition. The face is a interesting choice of expression. Yeah, but I mean, it's not too bad. It does look like Henry. I feel like the body does leave a bit to be desired. I mean, for one thing, only the boiler is metal. For another, why does he only have 2 splashers? I mean, the All Engines Go model manages 3. Don't ask me why I have this. You know, speaking of the All Engines Go model, I think I actually kind of prefer this one's proportions. This Henry looks a bit, like, short. I'd be interested to see how he looks next to the tank engines in this line. Is it going to be an Ertl situation where, like, the tender engines are scaled down and are tiny compared to the tank engines? I don't know. Either way, he suffers from his funnel being too short compared to the cab.
You've only got a small one.
I will say though, I do appreciate that the buffers are actually painted. That is a nice touch. What is not a nice touch is the fact that his handrail stopped being painted on the smoke box. I mean, I'll let it slide for now, but come on. Gotta love how his tender is just a freaking cube. In fact, I think it might actually be longer this way than this way. The buffers aren't painted on the tender, but at least they're only on the one side. You can't say the same for Take and Play. Overall, it's alright, but some improvements could be made. I'd give it a 7. And last but not least...
Hello?
Okay, so first things first, why is his cab so tall? At least the back of it is, like, cut out, but seriously, why is it so much taller than the funnel? Why is it so much taller than the rest of him? And on the subject of height, why is he so much taller than Henry? You know, the engine is meant to be bigger than him. Like, it's not even just the cab, his boiler is, like, so much taller than Henry's. Apart from the cab and the overall height, it is a very solid James model, though, I must admit. I like just how long the front of his running board is. That's a very James trait. And I like the golden side rods. I've never seen that done on a James before, but it looks pretty nice. I like how it fits the dome and the lining. I forgot to mention this when I went over Henry, but I appreciate how the splashes are actually over the wheels. This is the only bit that's metal, unfortunately, but at least the splashes are metal too. Well, the front first two. This is just plastic. The face is nice though. Very James. Overall, I would like how long he was if Henry was longer than him, because in his current state, Henry is just so tiny compared to him. I wonder if the rest of the diecast engines have these bad scaling issues, because if so, that's going to be very annoying.
Well, I may not have the diecast models, but I do know someone who does.
Hello!
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, it's me, Kitty Cat.
Who are you?
Your worst nightmare. Anyway, I got Thomas and Percy at Walmart on separate occasions, and I like what I see. The models are very well made and they scale with each other very well. Something I noticed rather odd is how everybody has screws, while Percy on the other hand has rivets that are often found on the diecast cars. Another thing I like is how they have side rods, which is very reminiscent of the Earl range. However, something I had noticed about the side rods is that Percy's appears to be off-center, while Thomas's are perfectly centered. To me, it appears that the reason the side rods are off-center is because of the way they attach them. The way they do it is that they have 2 pegs surrounding a wheel, and Percy has 4 wheels instead of 6. I think a simple solution would have been to make the side rods longer so that both crank pins are at the wheels. While Thomas and Percy are scaled great together, the same can't be said for James. James seems to always tower everybody no matter which character you play. And between you and me, I don't remember James being taller than Henry. Henry, on the other hand, has the problem where depending on how you look at him, he'll either be taller or shorter than Thomas and Percy. Overall, I like the models. I love what I see and I hope I see more in the future. And that is what I think of the new diecasts. Now, excuse me, I'm gonna eat a pizza.
How do people keep getting in here?
Hey Edith, why was the door unlocked?
Now to answer the question in the title. Is this stuff really worth the $40? Is any of this new Thomas merch worth buying? Well, like everything you buy, that depends. If you're someone like me who is willing to shell out more money for old toys, I'd say spend your paycheck somewhere else. As nice as it is to have new merch based off of the era of the show I like, being somebody who mainly collects merch just to customize it for videos, this new line is very, very limiting. For one thing, I mean, it did just come out. There's not much to use for stories or remakes or whatever. Of course, that goes for any new merchandise line. For another, this new line doesn't really work with the old Tomy/Take-and-Play stuff because of the extreme height difference, so it's really a go big or go home situation. You either switch to this new, not very extensive yet toy line, or stick with the old stuff. Of course, you could just make your own rolling stock and other things for it, but why do that when you could just buy more of the old toys, which look more like what you actually want? Oh, if you do want to go that route, more power to ya. I love seeing customs of this stuff.
Oh, one more thing,
If you do use these for videos, you'll have to contend with the massive scaling issues of the diecast range. It could quite possibly be even worse than Ertl. Yeah, get dunked on, Ertl users, you guys. If you want to collect the Thomas line that is still actually being produced, I'd say go for it. This is the first time in a long time that Mattel has decided to produce a toy line that fans actually want. Other than the new Wooden Railway, but that is dead. Blwomp. Despite the fact I've listed dozens of imperfections with these toys, they're much, much better than what we got in, say, 2017. And also, they're much more reasonably priced than stuff on eBay. Soon we'll be together, my love. Aw, hell nah. These toys aren't perfect, but they are still pretty good toys. Whether you go for the diecast or the motorized ones, you aren't exactly getting garbage. In the end, I am glad I finally got to see what this new toy range is like for myself, but I do kinda wish I waited a bit until I could find them in stores. while this 5-pack is nice and gives you a taste of what the new merch is like, the lack of anything for these guys to pull is a bit of a letdown. Plus, the absence of details like the white running boards, which are on the individually packed models, is a bit disappointing. All in all, I should have just touched some grass and gone to the store. And you should too. I mean, unless your 5-pack also comes with a wooden railway Edward... Wait, where did it go? I swear I left it right here. What the... Barrett, check the footage. It'll show it, I bet. Yeah, it's right there. What the heck? Well, I guess I'm gonna try and find that thing. This is EdwardsDayOut signing off. Huh.